Everyone loves a mystery, except the remake of Psycho, as that one shouldn't have been made. Dave Arneson was a huge fan of creating mysteries, as he gave us one of the biggest ones in D&D that to this day hasn't been explained, with the oddly named Egg of Coot. Who or what the egg is has never been fully laid out, but it's one of the biggest threats to the ancient kingdom of Blackmoor in every version of the setting. There's not much actual lore regarding the egg, as all the various sources have scrambled any and all information. It's time to break down what we know, as well as the most popular theories. Welcome to Mystara. I'm Mr. Welch, and I'm poaching from every source I can find to make this video. Real quick plug for my website, freemystara.com. That is a nexus where you can access all of the biggest Mystara channels in one place. It's got everything I've created for the setting, as well as art assets and PDFs if you want to expand your game. It's also where you can donate to help with the creation of the DMG, as I do not have a Patreon, I do not have memberships, and I can't sell the things I create on the DM's Guild because Wizards really doesn't want your money. So check out freemystara.com if you want a bunch of free Mystara stuff, which is kind of in the title. Now back to the Egg of Coot. First, to dispel a lingering rumor, the Egg of Coot was based on someone Dave Arneson knew in the formative days of Blackmoor. But it wasn't Gygax. The fact that E. Gary Gygax spells out egg is just a coincidence. The Egg of Coot's introduction into Blackmoor occurred before Dave met Gary per the Blackmoor experts. The actual inspiration, according to sources, was a wargamer who wasn't thrilled with the hobby evolving into RPGs and let Dave know every chance he got. There's also a story about this mystery man playing a prank on Dave that ended up costing him quite a bit of money. So in response, Dave immortalized him as the mysterious, malevolent Mystara mystery malefactor. What we know of the Egg of Coot is it's an eldritch horror that messes with people's minds, controls armies of minions of an unknown makeup, and no one knows what it is. Even the people who have met the egg personally can't remember what it looked like or anything about the encounter other than the words that it's spoken. The only official art I could find for Senior Huevos is from the Zeitgeist Games Blackmoor book, though it did first appear in the Judges Guild First Fantasy Campaign book. It doesn't show up in the OD&D Blackmoor book at all, making its first official appearance from a third-party book in 77. But I have at least something to work with. The Egg of Coot represents both the enigmatic creature as well as the lands that he controls that bear his name. His first appearance in the Judges Guild book mentions he was once a man over 1,000 years ago, but something changed him into what he is now. Nothing is stated about his time as a human, only the hard-boiled monster he became. The egg's history is deliberately left multiple choice, as his current form is listed as a giant jelly, a massive amoeba-like cells, an animated stone man, an actual leathery egg, pure energy, or a normal man, but one that is so difficult to behold that it drives anyone who gazes upon him insane. So Iggy Pop. Considering how much the egg messes with memory, stands a very good chance that his true form is indescribable, and the list is just what people remember him as. The personality of the egg is that of a narcissistic perfectionist. He believes in might makes right, and since he is the mightiest, that makes him the rightest. He does not accept defeat. If you beat his forces, he will attack you until you're crushed. He is spiteful, driven, and obsessive. He only accepts those into his ranks that live up to his standards. When he conquers a region, the first step in joining his empire is the culling of the weak. Those that survive his purges are then subjected to mental conditioning that make them utterly loyal to the egg and ready to die in one of his numerous wars. The racial makeup of the egg's forces are a bit contradictory, even for Mystara. Granted, I'm still going from his original appearance, so there are going to be some issues in the land's makeup. The core of the troops are humans, orcs, and goblins, but how many of each depend on what section you're reading. In addition to his living troops, there are numerous undead, some dragons and giants, and some of the troops are of the deviled variety in the form of Balrogs, because the Tolkien's estate's cease and desist order hadn't arrived yet. His armies number approximately 20,000 troops when they are at their strongest, but he will go to war with less if he thinks a neighbor is vulnerable. The land of the egg is a peninsula that sits in the middle of the Black Sea, in between Blackmoor to the east and the Duchy of the Peaks to the west. The land itself is just as much of a mystery as its namesake, as those who visit it can't remember even the makeup of the region. Some remember it as a series of endless marshes, others only remember the scrub-covered hills, and still others talk about the barren plains filled with toxic soil that only grows the most poisonous plants. As all these things can't be true, it's chalked up to the memory-affecting magics the egg permeates, extending to the land itself. The motivations of the egg are, say it with me, rather mysterious, with the fact nobody knows exactly what his goals are. He makes use of numerous spies and agents, but isn't afraid to let his troops loose to invade areas he sees as weak. Many of his efforts seem to be destabilizing enemy nations, breaking them down so they will be vulnerable to his armies. His absolute egotistical view towards his own abilities means he plays the long game, but will be absolutely infuriated if he's defeated. as in become completely obsessed with your destruction and not stop plotting your downfall until your nation is nothing more than a memory, no matter how many of his troops he has to sacrifice in the process. The realm of the Egg has a population of approximately 20,000, with a quarter of that being slaves, at least in the Mystara version of the realm. Apparently these are separate from his troops. Most of the region is human, but the Egg's powers draw in the worst of the worst to serve as his minions. Once they reach his lands, they will be tested, weighed, measured, until their will is broken and their minds are fried. Then they will be turned into cannon fodder for the majority of them, or for the few competent ones, made into the agents of the Eggs and dispatched to other lands to bring chaos and destruction. If they are discovered there, their lifespans will be measured with an egg timer, which is rather appropriate. What we do know of the Egg that is agreed upon by all the various sources is that he first made himself known to the world approximately 70 years before the events of the Blackmoor module. From the sea, the land of the Egg was noted to be impassable cliffs or deadly fens with almost no natural harbors. There is one city, Egg's Hold, that is the only safe method of visiting the region. Well, safe as you can get approaching the land of an eldritch abomination with the mentality of Bill Mummy's character from the Twilight Zone. You remember him, the powerful kid that sent all the people to the cornfield? Yeah, that's the Egg of Coot, though his powers are limited to his realm apparently. He also eats magic and sends his minions out to find more magic items and spellcasters to be returned to his land for his diabolical purposes. He only communicates through telepathy, which is restricted to inside his realm, or to his minions that travel outside of it. His telepathic powers seem to be set only to max, so his surrogates normally speak to potential allies seeking the assistance of the Egg against mutual enemies. He also has created numerous spells and magical items on his own, as that seems to be his hobby. He meets his fate sometime after the rise of Blackmoor, either through the nation's technological rise in power, or possibly destroyed during the Great Rain of Fire. No trace of him or his legacy have survived into the time of the known world. I don't see him allowed to remain a threat while Blackmoor ascended to its Magitech supremacy after the arrival of the Beagle. So there's a very good chance one of the tests their scientists conducted between the time of King Uther and the peak of Blackmoor technology was to see if the Egg of Coot could tank a neutron bomb. Spoilers, he can't. The Egg has a special hatred for King Uther and Blackmoor, as they have defeated his armies on at least 2 occasions. There might have been counterattacks against Egg's Hold, as it is strongly hinted that Blackmoorians have landed troops on the peninsula, but nobody can remember it happening clearly. There are hints that an invasion was attempted, as resources were apparently spent, units that would have been the vanguard of an invasion are missing, and plans were drawn up to attack the Egg, but no one can recall if it was ever acted on or what happened to the missing men and supplies. The Egg can mess up your mind, but to affect an entire nation? That would be ridiculous, right? What the man that would become the Egg became has been the source of many an argument with the Blackmoor fans. There are strong hints about what he could have been, but considering his multiple choice history, they're just theories. The most popular one is the Egg has become a great old one of the godlike creatures from the far realms, only ascending from just a mere mortal. This makes the most sense in terms of power, as well as the fact, despite that it can force its will on others and mind-wipe entire nations, it's pretty petty with the use of its abilities. When the Great Rain of Fire hits, or when Blackmoor initiates Operation Mushroom Garden on his region, he is forced back into the far realms until he can find a way to return to Mystara. That means he's still kicking the known world's timeline, just looking for a method to manifest on the Prime once more. Another possibility is he turned into a Soul Eater, becoming the first of the Nishru, the magic-eating death clouds populating the dimension of nightmares. Many of his characteristics fall well within the parameters of a Soul Eater. He devours magic, messes with minds, and is depicted as a black cloud with just his eyes visible. This allows him to have escaped to the dimension of nightmares when things turned against him. And he's still kicking around thousands of years later. This also puts him at odds with the Archfey Mob, which explains why he hasn't turned up. He is very much mortal in this form, but he's going to be almost immortal in terms of power. Then there is the chance that he became a powerful Elder Brain, only one that somehow didn't come with any mind flayers. This would explain why people call him the Egg and the staggering mental powers. All he can do is think and plot, and use mind control to force people into doing his bidding. Mind flayers are definitely not a Mystara creature in most situations, but it would make for an interesting discovery if the characters somehow run across him in his true form. This does make him quite mortal, so the odds of him making it past the Great Rain of Fire in this version aren't good. But it is easy to explain this form to the characters. Another option is that the Egg is of extraterrestrial origins. It is known to use Magitech, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Egg came from the stars. When the Beagle landed and Stephen the Rock ran off to start the Temple of the Frog, the Egg's agents were able to secure several items to bolster its powers. This is a far more open-ended option, with the human that was the egg being taken over or assimilated by the true Egg of Coot, and now this powerful creature rules over the domain unchallenged. The downside to that is you have to design it from scratch, unless you want to find something suitable from Spelljammer or Planescape, or even use Star Frontiers for suggestions. It's the least plausible of the options, but definitely the most original. The Egg of Coot is a master-tier adversary that serves as one of the biggest threats to Blackmoor. It's also the least hostile, at least in terms of direct attacks. It's not sending longboats, armies, or raiding parties into Blackmoor. It's sending spies, saboteurs, and collaborators to ingratiate themselves into society, assassinating and ruining the more powerful lords of the realm, and softening up the new kingdom for its eventual downfall. It works with other rivals like the Thonians, Afridi, or Scandaharians, but only when its needs are parallel to the other nations. It plans on betraying them just as soon as it takes out the one country that has vexed it the most. The Egg's agents can make appearances in Mystara with the help of time travel. That's a core component in the Blackmoor adventures in the first place. What they would be doing in the present is left up to the Dungeon Master, but it would have to be important because the Egg isn't letting his agents get too far from his control. That's the Egg of Coot. This video was a pain because his background was deliberately vague. But that's everything I could find about him. Enjoy! Next week we are looking at the horoscope of Mystara, one of the more obscure topics that's tied to one of the worst supplements in D&D. Until then, remember to keep the sunny side up.